Good morning. My name is Janelle and I run a Christian daycare, but I'm also a homeschooling mom. And it's been my mission through the years to develop Christ-centered traditions for our Christmas and Easter holiday. And so I wanted to make a video to share one of my favorite things that I just found this year that is going to start becoming one of our new Easter traditions. So I get a magazine that I adore called Keepers at Home. And if you want a subscription, I think it's $26 for 2 years. You get them quarterly, so you get 4 each year. But they're full of just really amazing information, answers to questions. You can write them questions and get answers. And it's put out by the Mennonite community. And those women have a lot of integrity and they're very interesting to learn from. I really appreciate how they navigate in their homes and their families. So I really value their input, and one of their stories in their latest issue was from a mom who had a book series called Christmas in My Heart, which I had to buy after I read that article because she said she started reading it and they were just stories of goodwill towards men, and it just inspired you to look at people a little bit differently with some light behind your eyes, you know? So I had to buy that book series after I read her article, and yeah, I haven't actually even read it yet because it's not Christmas, and I thought it would be a lot funner to read a story each night with the kids, and so I just haven't got around to it yet, but I'm excited to start that Christmas tradition of learning how to put ourselves out for other people and expecting good things from people. Not expecting, but not expecting people to just be ugly all the time, because that's kind of what the world puts into us and our kids. So trying to keep our eyes on the light of the world instead of being just kind of clouded over with darkness. So her article that she wrote, the last magazine that I got in the winter, actually it might have been two magazines, she had talked about a tradition that I believe it's on Pinterest and whatnot, but she actually did it in her home, where you have a manger that you set on your table and you have a bowl with straw in it. And then every day her family would draw names during dinner out of the bowl, and there was a name of each family member. So the rule was you couldn't draw yourself and you couldn't draw the same person 2 days in a row. And so they draw names, and you were basically tasked with doing something nice, like secretly. So you were trying to be like a spy. You were trying to make them guess who was being nice to them. And so you find something that you do nice for your family, and that person is your focus for the day. And the mom was telling her children, and I really appreciate this because I don't want my kids to just think that they have to do a lot of the right thing every day. I want their attitudes and their hearts to be more Christ-like too. And one of her things was, if that sibling is upset with you, or if you are arguing with them, or if they make you like really angry, it's also a really good thing to forgive them in your heart and not hold bitterness against them, or not be angry with them, or forgive them, and don't let the trespass dwell in you, and don't feel so opposed to your sibling or your mom or your dad. And just letting go of those bad things with that person is also a gift. And so every day that they accomplished their mission, they got to take a piece of straw from the bowl and put it in Jesus's manger. And that for her family represented when the goodwill towards men, like when people are doing good for each other, it makes the world a nicer place to be in. And so it's kind of like when we do good things for each other, and it's like a play on when Jesus comes into the world, that it's a nicer place for him to come into if we're being good to each other. And that also plays in with when he comes again. Just, we want goodwill towards men because we want to make sure that we're making the world as good as it can be. Despite all the opposition, if we can put a little dent and do a little good in this world, that it's worth it, and trying to give our kids that meaning and that goal and that aim to focus on. So that was her winter thing, and she said her family was so beautiful and fun to just be around when they were trying to secretly bless each other, and she got so much fruit out of it that she was fascinated. And so it was May, I think, when she wrote her article this time, and she said, the kids are all running around, they're screaming at each other, they're just back in full swing of chaos mode as a family. And she said, she's remembering Christmas and how Christmas was so beautiful. And she said there's another holiday of the Lord coming up. And she said, I just wish it was Christmas, because that tradition in their home has just breathed so much peace and so much joy and so much contentment. And then she came up with this beautiful idea, and I think that it's fantastic. And so what she did was she got one of those foam circular wreaths that you can get at the dollar store if you have one, and she bought a big box of like 500 toothpicks, and she started sticking these toothpicks in this wreath so that it would set on the table. And her kids got really curious. Obviously, the kids are like, toothpicks for some reason are really fascinating, because I actually have done this project now, and I can also add to her testimony that the kids will just flock around and be like, what are you doing? It's fascinating. So that's the perfect time to introduce them to the task that they're going to have. And so we put up together our wreath with all the toothpicks, and it represents the crown of thorns. And so what she described for hers and what I'm trying to do with mine are kind of similar. So I'll just tell you what I'm doing with mine. When the children looked at my crown of thorns, one of the extra things that I did was I had red nail polish, so I tried to make it a little bit more terrible. Because Easter's kind of terrible, but also it's like terrible and beautiful. So this is my crown of thorns. I dipped it in the nail polish, and then I'd push it in. Some of them I didn't have enough nail polish for, but you get the idea. And you can see how many, there's a ton of these toothpicks. Like, there is a lot of work to do. So each of these toothpicks represents when Jesus died on the cross, he took on our sins. So he willingly took on all of the punishment and the penalty for each and every one of our sins, and he took those on his shoulders, and it was painful, and it hurt him, and it did not feel good, and it was not something that he deserved. He was innocent. He didn't deserve this. This is what we deserved. And so then I take the opportunity, once all the toothpicks are in, to flip it over, and oh no, I'll have to put those back in. I flip it over and I say, would you want to wear this? And they all wanted to try it. And I just set it on there, and you could feel the toothpicks, but then I say, and Jesus had them push it all the way down on their head. And I mean, it's uncomfortable enough for the kids to be like, when I start to even barely touch it. And so I said, do you think that felt good when he was on the cross? Do you think he wanted all that sin on his shoulders? Do you think he wanted all that punishment? And it's a great opportunity to teach the kids that Jesus was innocent when he went to the cross, and he had no reason to accept this punishment, but that he took it on willingly for our sake. And so then I tell the children, what we're trying to do with our crown of thorns is we are trying to, how did I say it? I'm trying to remember my exact wording, but you can say it however you want. But I essentially told them, we're going to try to take some of Jesus' suffering away. When he was on the cross, these are all the sins that he bore. But when we learn to be more like Jesus and do things the right way and do things the way that Jesus has taught us to do, because he wants our lives to be full of blessings, but also to be full of good and right. And I said, when we learn how to live like Jesus has taught us to live and to stay away from things that bring us to sin, then we don't bring as much sin into the world. So I said, every time that we change our mind and we think the way that we think is right, something that we think Jesus would want us to do, anytime we change our mind and do what Jesus wants us to do, we get to take a thorn out and we get to put it in our cup. And our goal is to get all the thorns out by Easter. And I mean, we only have like 2 weeks left, so we're all going to have to really start focusing and trying to get right in our mind. And I just pulled out the slogan, what would Jesus do? And so they can do things for each other that's still on the table if they want to bless each other, like physically they can clean each other's rooms or whatever they're feeling generous with. But I want it to be more of a heart transformation where they're thinking a little bit better and like stopping themselves from doing things they know is wrong. So I'm encouraging them like, hey, did you want to get mad when she took your toy? And they're like, yeah. Well, you didn't, and you were really calm. You get to take out a thorn. And eventually they're going to know when they do something that was right and it was hard for them, and they can just come and take out thorns all day long if they want to. And eventually we're hoping to at least take away a lot of these. You can see one section we've been working on, but we're trying to get all of these taken away by Easter. And it's actually one of the things that I used to struggle with as a kid, with Jesus dying on the cross for my sins. I wanted to help him. I didn't want him to suffer. I didn't want him to die. And I was kind of mortified to think that he died for me, because it just broke my heart as a child. And this is one of the ways that I think when I was a kid and struggling with the idea that he did that for me, and when I make a mistake I'm hurting him, it helps the kids see that when they make the right choice, they're actually taking that away. Like they're being a blessing, not just to themselves, but to the Lord when they live a more righteous lifestyle. So anyway, this is a tradition that I am definitely going to continue every single year, and I'm hoping eventually we all start to understand what is needed to take these thorns away. And I could see it going well past when my kids are teenagers, and I'm hoping it carries on to their families, because there's never a time where we need to stop thinking like Jesus and acting like Jesus. And honestly, there's some days where I barely get to take any thorns out, and that makes me feel kind of embarrassed, because I always want to be Christ-minded. So it's an accountability tool for my kids, but also for me. Anyway, I was really happy to share this with you, and I hope it's a blessing to you too. Bye.